talked about cleaning up things after the last game. What were things you guys, when you had time to go over film, that you could do cleaner that would make you guys be a more complete offense?
Just the details, I think, and some of the really all the plays, run game, passing game, just little things like that.
What do you think is the next step for this offense? I mean, you guys have done really well in the red zone, done a little bit of things really well, but then a lot of 3 and outs. What's the next step for you guys to become a better offense?
Just consistency with the details.
Aaron, what could you do to help MVS kind of pick this up quickly?
I can translate, the offense we ran in Green Bay for a number of years into this offense for him. He's a smart guy. He's played a lot of football, been around a long time, been productive, so I'm sure he'll pick it up pretty quick.
What kind of challenges does Derwin James bring as a safety with the different levels that he plays in that defense?
Yeah, I mean, he plays high safety, the half-field safety, the quarter safety, the big nickel, dime linebacker. He can do it all. I mean, he's one of the top players in the league, and he can do it at multiple positions. He can blitz, he can cover, he can tackle. I mean, he's one of the more impressive players you see on film.
Aaron, how have you seen the receivers kind of handle all the outside noise about adding a guy or needing a guy, and how have you seen them progress over your time?
I mean, that was just yesterday, so I'm not sure. I haven't heard a peep about any of it, so I'm not sure.
Were you holding your breath at all at the trade deadline yesterday, hoping that there would be a move, see anybody else brought in?
You know, what I've learned about the trading deadline is there's a lot of conversation, and rarely is there a lot of action. Maybe a little bit more the last few years, but in my early days, there was hardly ever any roster moves. At the deadline, there were some big ones yesterday, but you feel pretty good about your guys, and we added Marquez to the P squad. We've had guys on the P squad who've been playing for us. Obviously, Keyshawn got elevated and been doing a nice job for us. Max has done really good all year. Isaiah's done good. So we've had guys on the P squad step up every single week and play, and there'll be no difference this week.
Aaron, does the versatility you have in tight ends to also maybe make it not as urgent a need to find whatever people define as quote number 2 receiver?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of outside talk. You got to look at the way we're playing and the personnel groupings that we like. We're a multiple personnel team. We run a lot of guys out there. We had an offensive lineman play a lot of snaps. Obviously, Darnell plays a lot of snaps, and Johnny and Pat, and Connor gets in there on some plays, and rotating 3 different backs, a lot of different receivers. So we're not a big 3-receiver team in general. And when Calvin's come back and played really well for us, and Roman's been more consistent, so there was probably more noise outside of the facility than maybe inside the facility.
Aaron, before the game, cameras caught you. CBS talked about your finger and nothing.
Ask Zach about that one. But the point I was making was I dislocated my pinky when I was like 11 years old, and it never kind of recentered back up. And he snapped one a little bit on the inside. But no, I'm fine.
Aaron, you talked a little bit about the 2010 team after the game. Can you draw any comparisons with this team, maybe in the locker room?
The
or on
2010
the field?
team?
Well, the Packers team that won the Super Bowl.
What did I say?
I forget exactly what you said, but you mentioned the team. But I just was wondering if you can draw any comparisons
about the
with
different guys.
Yeah, with the guys in the locker room and maybe on the field with this team.
I mean, it's that which you can't measure, which is often the most important part of the chemistry in the locker room. And I think Mike did a good job. The team has gone to Latrobe every year, which is a good foundation building for us. And, the guys get along. I was telling Marquez, there's no bad apples in here. There's nobody you worry about. Nobody with consistent late issues or team rule issues. Not that there's a lot of rules in general, but no, there's a bunch of good guys in here that care about each other and play for each other.
With the game on the West Coast this week, do you go do any work with the body work guy, anything like that you get while you're on the West Coast?
I'm not going to talk about what I do in my personal time.
Can you talk about your relationship that you've developed with Cam as kind of twin leaders of your units?
Cam invited me to a movie night a while back and said it was a big team function. I showed up. I was the only player there. on a Tuesday night, too. Just like we got an early Wednesday morning, the quarterbacks, with our meeting with Mike. So I was like, fine. I love, team bonding, chemistry stuff. I show up. I see him and his son, Cal, who we got to know during training camp. I'm like, cool. Forced Cam's here. I look around. I go, where's everybody at? So then he texted me a couple nights ago, said there was something on Monday night. And I said, is this going to be like the last one? No response from the group chat, but I really appreciate his leadership. He's a guy who knows how to use his voice at the right times, and his play has been stellar, I think. He's made some plays where he's hustling the backside of balls being on the flat that are really impressive. He's pushed the pocket in the middle. He's got his hands on a lot of footballs that have been key kind of game-changing plays for us. But he's a steady guy. I like to razz him from time to time because I'm a little more maybe chipper, would you say, in the mornings than he is. But I'm really fortunate to play with Cam Hayward.
What movie did you watch?
When I actually went, it was Tron, the new Tron. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything about the movie yet.
How excited are you to have MBS back?
I love MBS. Yeah.
What's the trickiness of balancing having so many different targets to work with on offense and strike that balance week in,
It's
week
not
out?
tricky at all. Throw it to the open guy. So whoever gets open usually gets the opportunities.
Do you find that easier than when there's one guy that you're trying to?
It's never that. Even with Devontae, I just said, listen, I throw it to the open guy, but Devontae was open more often than not. So he's obviously getting those targets. But I throw it to the open guy. Obviously, we have a lot of different personnel groupings and splits and alignments and motions and stuff that we're trying to get certain guys the ball. The team's been trying to shut down DK. They've been rolling the coverage to him damn near every play. Even when it looks like single high, they'll just roll to his side. They're basically playing 0 on one side and 2 men on the other side. So other guys got to step up and make plays.
You mentioned no bad apples here. You talked about Pat a couple
Except for
weeks
Cam. Yeah.
a couple weeks ago when you were talking about Pat, you said, look, some guys, they don't get targets, they bitch and whatever. It seems like it's not happening in general with this group. What do you sort of attribute that to?
Well, me and Mike are pretty scary, I think. I welcome those conversations. I do. If somebody wants more targets, I welcome the conversation. But I usually say, let's watch the film. Let's talk about football. I love doing that. I think what young players learn is that practice is very, very important. And when you show it week in and week out in practice, it gives a quarterback a lot of confidence to come your way with football. And when guys have good weeks of practice, like Roman did a couple weeks ago, you just kind of feel that the ball is going to find him at some point. Now, the balls that he caught weren't exactly as him as the number one in the progression. But when you have confidence in the guy and you've seen him do it in practice, it gives you that confidence to do it. The play I had Pat on in practice was a play we worked on since training camp, and it didn't quite look right until about 2.5 weeks ago. Me and Pat worked on the side with it, and we talked about if you just wait a little longer on that and sell it and really get your feet in the ground, I think it's going to open up more. Now, that was for match covers. They played cover 4 on that one, but because he waited, the ball was able to be completed between the safety and the corner, and then he made a beautiful athletic play to get in the end zone. But when you see stuff like that in practice, it allows you to have the confidence to go to that guy on those plays in the game. And the other part is, like I said, I'll say it again just because it means so much to me. But when a guy's not getting the ball and they still show up to work the same way every single day, every week, there's a lot to be said for that. And I've mentioned Pat and I mentioned Roman, Calvin at times as well, DK. There's a lot to be said for that.